Good afternoon. Greetings from Chicagoland. This is Munira, CEO and founder of Kismet Ventures, Inc. I am on the prowl to find and expose people and promote them by doing this segment because I know there are people out there who are doing so much good in the world and do not take credit for it because they just think they're doing what they're called upon to do. But I find that they are instilling a lot of values in them, in other people. One such person is Jake Ballentine, who is also my friend. And Jake here is joining us from California. Hi, Jake.
Yes. Hey, how are you? I'm so glad to be here.
I'm good. Thank you so much for your time and joining us on my little I call it an escapade, but this allows me to meet such wonderful people.
So cool. What a beautiful time we live in. What a beautiful time we live in when we can connect with people all over the country, but all over the world. I mean, just today I've talked to 3 different countries, in conversations like this. I've been on the phone, or not phone, but Skype calls with 3 different countries. I've communicated with dozens of different countries, and I don't know, about 1,000 people in one day. In 2018, that's what's possible. I mean, it's so cool that we live in that kind of world where that's what's possible. So I love what you're doing.
Thank you so much. And I want to find more people in other countries that are doing this. So we start from home and then we expand, right?
Yes.
So, Jake, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so that's a tough question for everyone. Anytime you ask that, because there's so many different hats that different people wear. And so I'm going to go with this. So I wear a lot of different hats as a speaker, as a coach, as a husband, as a father, as a member of my community. But what I do, everything that I do comes down to one simple concept. And this concept is connected to this poster right here about focusing on the good. And my philosophy in life is wrapped around this principle of practical positivity. And what I mean by that is that positivity is actually the most practical advice that anyone could take, that anyone could give. I sat on an airplane next to someone one day. I can't remember where I was flying. I'm on a lot of flights, several flights, sometimes as many as 4 flights a month. But anyway, I was on a flight and I sat next to this guy and he asked me what I do. I tell him I'm a motivational speaker and he kind of gives me a weird look about it. And he says, well, I'm going to speak to this company. And he goes, okay, so what do you talk about? And I said, I talk about the power of positivity and focusing on the good and how it helps you turn your dreams into your reality. And he says, that's cool, but I'm more of a realist. And I heard him say that. And then afterwards I started thinking, as I'm sitting there on the airplane where we're both quiet, and I'm thinking, that is complete baloney to say that you're a realist, because that's not true. You're cynical is what it is. It's not that you're a realist, it's that you're cynical. When someone says I'm more of a realist, that's not what it's about. It's about protecting themselves from disappointment. It's about, I don't want to try to go there because look what might happen. But more importantly, when we choose to focus on the good and we choose to have positivity in the direction that we're going, you're going to achieve more than if you were in a negative state. If you have a positive attitude about something, even if it goes terrible, you're going to keep moving forward and you're going to pivot and you're going to adjust and you're going to adjust. But the people who are more of realists, they never even try to begin with, because there's no proof that it's going to work out. But if anyone wants to achieve something of greatness, it requires positivity. So for me, being a speaker, which I speak all over the country, being a coach, which I help people reach their goals. I also coach speakers, authors, and coaches to make a difference with their message. And also in my community, in my community here where I live and in my family, my focus is instilling this idea of practical positivity, and that's what the world needs to be a better place.
So how were you aware of this positive positivity?
Like, how did this come to me? How did this happen in my life?
Yeah, and how did you start your, speaking career?
Which question should I go with first?
Whichever you want.
Okay, so I'll go with how did I start with this positivity? How did this come to me? I always thought that I was a positive person. I always felt like I was a positive person. People just have gifts, or I call them their superpowers. And I've always had positivity in my life. I've always had an ability to communicate to people and really help other people and brighten their day. And I got into speaking because of that. That's why I got into speaking. I can tell about that in a moment, how I got into speaking. But that was always a part of me. But there came a time when I was speaking all over the country, and things were looking really good in my business and in my professional life. But, inside, for whatever reason, there's a lot of things going on. Everyone has issues and problems and things that arise. I had a period of time where I now call that period of time the depressed motivational speaker, where, it doesn't sound very motivational now, does it? And I was going through a really tough time. I was about 60 pounds heavier than I am right now. I didn't feel like my future could change. I didn't feel like some things in my life were gonna be fixed. I just was focusing on all these problems. And I thought I was always this positive guy, but what I came to realize was I started becoming that realist that I talked about, and I started focusing on all the problems, because what's wrong is always available, and so is what's right. But I focused on the problems. I was focusing on what was wrong. I was focusing on even, I was trying to lose weight for years. I was trying to make that change, because a lot of this actually came on. I've struggled with weight up and down my whole life, but when I started traveling a lot, it just became a lot harder, because when you're on 50 flights a year and you're living in and out of hotels and airports and those kind of things, you got mostly fast food, that's what food. Oh, very healthy, yes. and that's at least that was my excuse anyway, right? Later on I realized that that's not an adequate excuse, but it was at the time. And I kept focusing on the problem. Oh my gosh, I got to lose this weight, and I look terrible, and I'm exhausted, and I'm tired, and I had this back pain, and I was focusing on all the problems. And I decided it was time for me to put into practice all this stuff that I'd been preaching, that I was talking about. I was telling people about how they can turn their goals into their reality if they just do these things. And but yet I wasn't doing it. I had my strongest goal, my biggest goal at the time, my number one goal. I wrote a book called Your Number One Goal for that reason. And I had my number one goal, but I wasn't able to do anything about it. And there was some dissonance in my life. I felt like a phony out there teaching these things and then not living it. Teaching, but more importantly, it wasn't about the weight, it was about how I felt inside. And anyway, I made a decision at that time to stop focusing on the problems and start focusing on what I wanted. Stop focusing on what I had lost and start focusing on what I'm going to gain from this experience. And I tell this in every speech that I do. I talk about how every motivational story, any inspirational story, if it's a movie, a book, a speech that you watch, it has three parts. Part one, the hero of the story was once in this hard place, this tough place. They were here, they were a different person, whatever it is. Part one, they were here. Part two, they go through a challenge to overcome part one. And part three, they're a better person because they went through part two. And you can't jump from part one to part three without going through part two. This is the period of time that shapes you. It's the period of time that helps you grow. It's the period of time that helps you move. And what I realized was when I became grateful while I was in part two, that's when things started to change. And that's when my physical fitness started to change. My health started to change. That's when my mental fitness started to change. That's when my emotions started to change. That's when my relationships started to get better. That's when my business grew. That's all of these different kinds of things. And it wasn't until I became grateful for this quote unquote challenge, when I was in the challenge, and I became grateful for it. And I realized that we get to choose what we focus on. And the best thing that we can do for our success is to focus on the good instead of focusing on all the problems that we have. And if you focus on the good, it brings momentum, moves forward and moves forward and moves forward.
You talk about this, and it reminds me of a story my mom used to tell me, that when a caterpillar cocoons itself,
Mm-hmm.
it really doesn't want to do it because it doesn't know what it's going to transform into.
Yes.
Every caterpillar is different.
Huh.
They don't want to cocoon themselves, but they have to. It's just something that they have to, and then a complete metamorphosis takes place, and a new butterfly is formed.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're talking about is exactly that. So it's a matter of mindset, right? That people have to change the mindset. So
this is where faith comes in, because like you talk about that caterpillar not knowing. The thing is look, someone who's going through a challenge, someone who's going through a trial, whatever that trial may be, if you knew for a surety that in 5 years or 5 months that trial was going to be over and you were going to be in that place you wanted to be, if you knew 100%, it wouldn't be that hard to go through that trial. It's the not knowing. It's the period of time when they say, I don't know. And that's where faith comes in. And that's where that positivity comes in. That's where believing comes in. And without that belief, we're not going to move forward. We're not going to do anything. Sorry, I cut you off from a question you had there.
But no, I was just saying that, yes, you understand the faith is there, but it's also a matter of mindset, right? Because you have to change your mindset.
Yeah.
What is that one thing that helped you change your mindset that you can share with our viewers?
The one thing, there's like 30 things, so I'm trying to figure out which one to focus on. I'm feeling this right now. Sometimes I tell different things to different people at different times, and right now I feel like there's someone who needs to hear this. Maybe it's because on my last coaching call I was on, this was a topic that came up a lot, and this is something I had to go through, and that is, be kind to yourself. Be kinder to yourself. People beat themselves up. The vast majority of people are so much meaner to themselves than they ever would be to someone. They would be ashamed to act the way that they act towards themselves to another human being. In fact, if they saw someone treating someone else the way that they treat themselves inside of their head, they would stand up and stop it. And that does nothing. It does nothing at all to help you. And there's so many different places we could go in terms of what can help you, starting your morning routine right, focusing on positivity, focusing on filling your mind with good things, focusing on gratitude, moving your body first thing in the morning, all sorts of things, having a compelling future. There's all of that. But none of that matters if you're beating yourself up all the time. Even some of those things can become bigger problems, because then you think, oh my gosh, what a loser. I skipped my morning routine today. I'm awful. You have to be kinder to yourself. There's one thing I could tell you to do. It's be kinder to yourself and do it now. It's the opposite of the golden rule. We always say treat other people the way that you want to be treated. How about this? I'm just assuming that you're a good person because you've made it through this part of the video. You've watched this people who are cynical and cranky people, they wouldn't listen to me this long. They'd go, who is this guy talking about positivity? I don't want to listen to him. He's a weirdo. So I'm assuming that you are a positive and good person. Treat yourself the way that you treat other people. Because if you're watching this, my belief is that you're the kind of person who treats other people with kindness and respect and all those kind of things. So start treating yourself the way that you treat other people. And I think that's going to do wonders for you.
But and you bring such a wonderful point, is because I see, especially women out there, who never put themselves first, who never think of themselves first. It's always about others, because women are nurturers by nature, right?
Yes.
And so you're so right, is that if we don't take care of ourselves, if we don't think of us as the person we want to see others in. It doesn't happen. I mean, we have to think of us as ourselves.
Yes.
That comes first, right?
Yes.
And you're so right, because we are always our own worst critic.
Yes. Everyone is.
Okay, so take me to the time when you decided you were going to be a speaker.
Okay, so yeah, I was pretty young at the time. I was when I made the decision that I wanted to be a speaker, I was 24 years old when I made that decision. That's what I wanted to do. I was just finishing up college, and here's what happened. So before I was a speaker, I was a musician. That's what I did for my work. I performed, played guitar, and sang. That was my job, and I was playing kind of all over the Western United States. And I got into music because I wanted to promote a positive message. That's why I got into music. I wasn't wanting to be a famous rock star or anything like that. I wanted to use this tool to promote a positive message. After playing for a couple years in bars and clubs and dingy places that I wouldn't spend time at on my own, I decided this isn't doing what I want it to do. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go back to college. And 'cause I took a couple years off doing the music thing. And so I went back to college, and I decided, okay, I'm going to get my degree in psychology, and I'm going to then go on and get a master's in counseling, which was my intention at the time. That's what I was planning on doing. I went back to school. I did finish my bachelor's degree. I didn't end up going to get my master's. I decided not to, because I took this path. While I was going to college, I just had this crazy idea. I said, what if I had no idea this was a career. I didn't know that it was something you could do. I knew that famous people did it, but I didn't know that like regular people could get paid to speak to people. And I thought, okay, I'm still going to go be a counselor, but what if for fun, I still want to use music as a tool to promote a positive message. So what if I went to high schools and did a combination of music and speaking and shared a positive message? And I just thought it was going to be something that I did for fun. I had no idea that it could be a career. And so I started doing it. Then I found someone who was very successful in the youth speaking world, and I invested in his coaching program. I spent a lot of money that I didn't have. That's one thing I hear that a lot. People saying, I don't have the money to invest in myself. I didn't have the money to invest in myself either. I figured out how to make it happen. And it was one of the best decisions I ever made, because I dove in head first. I got mentorship. I learned. I did everything that I possibly could. I applied everything that was taught to me. And then 12 months later, it was my full-time career. And that was right at the time I finished college. And I was offered two other jobs. I was offered two jobs right out of college. And I turned both of them down. They're both well-paying jobs. And I said, nope, I'm going to do this on my own. That's what I want to do. And it was still just starting at the time. I say it was full-time, but you got to understand, I had just been a poor college student. So all I was doing was living a life as a poor college student at the beginning, even though I was out of college, and I was okay with that. But anyway, point is it took me a year to turn this into an actual career. And then it just grew and grew and grew. And then I went to hundreds of schools and youth leadership conferences all over the nation. I've been hired to speak in 43 states. In the last couple years, I've branched out and I speak at corporations, associations. I speak at any kind of personal development seminar as well, and some business conferences and those kind of things. Anyway, but it's taken me in a whole different direction I never thought was ever possible. I didn't even know that this was a thing that I could do. But it started because I had a thought. I had just some weird thought. And then I took action on it. And I did something about it. And I took something that was a dream and I turned it into a reality. And, I added it up. I've been in live audiences, I've been in front of close to 300,000 people. And that's just been because I took action on a dream.
So to those people who are still experiencing negative thoughts, sometimes I'm one of them.
Me too. You're going to say for those people, I have negative thoughts too. So it's everyone.
So you have that. I often think of the angel and the devil, and
like in the cartoons.
Yes, that's what I live in cartoons. I haven't grown up yet. I'm still a Peter Pan. So, for those people who have these negative thoughts, you and I included, how do you silence them, and what is it that you do to change that message that this negativity is sending you?
I like to first think about, why am I having this negative thought? Because I'll tell you this, I very rarely have negative thoughts if I had a good night's sleep, if I ate healthy for the day, if I exercised that morning, if I'm feeling good. I don't really have those thoughts. It's when life happens, which it does sometimes, where something happened and I missed my morning workout, or I made a poor choice in the food that I ate, or I have a 1-year-old, so sleep is a pretty valuable thing. It doesn't always happen the way that we plan it, and those kind of things happen. And so the first thing I think about is going back to being kinder to yourself. So we can get in a trap really easily when we start preaching, got to be positive, got to be positive, got to be positive. Well, you can get so inundated with positivity that you start beating yourself up for not being positive all the time. First step, be kinder to yourself. Next step, think, why am I feeling this way? Is there a real thing outside of me that is causing this? Which is usually one of those things. And at that point, realize, okay, I'm not broken. I just need to make sure I get more sleep tonight. I'm not broken. This is why it's important. Next time I'm thinking I'm really hungry, so I'm going to stop at In-N-Out, I can say, no, I'm going to stop at the grocery store and get an apple and a Cliff Bar. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can make positive choices, and I can use it as fuel. Now, when there's nothing connected in terms of something that you're doing, then I still like to think, why is this happening? What am I afraid about right now? What is the fear coming in? What's the story I'm telling myself? There's really only a couple things you can control. There's 3 things you can control. Everything else out of our control. 3 things are, number 1, what we choose to focus on. That's why I say focus on the good. We can choose what we focus on. Number 2, what those things mean to us. What's the story we're telling ourselves? Is this happening to me, or is this happening for me? What they mean, and then what we're going to do about it. So start thinking about those things. Why am I acting like this? Why am I feeling this way? Is there a story I need to change in my head? That's the thing. We have control over the stories, how we change them, what we think. So anyway, those are the couple things. Be kind to yourself. Look at it. Say, is there a reason why I'm feeling this way that I can change in terms of physicality? The next thing is, okay, I'm feeling this way. Everything else is good. How can I change the story? How can I change what I focus on? And then is there something I can do to change it? So I don't know if that's exactly what you're thinking. I don't think people are going to just zap it away. We have feelings. We have emotions. And sometimes we need to address them.
Well, a good coach told me, a good friend of mine, just talk it to yourself. Talk through it, If you have the negative thoughts, just talk through it. Or, just ponder over it. Because if you just try to zap it, it's not a mosquito.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's not a mosquito. It's pesky. You'll keep coming back.
Yeah, so why don't you just think about it? Like you said, just focus on the questions that are out there. Is that, why am I having these thoughts? What have I done to get these thoughts? Is it external? Is it internal? And so if you start focusing on and breaking it down, or there's some people who just write things down, right?
Yep.
And eventually it becomes clearer. For me, when I have these negative thoughts, I talk to myself. Not in the mirror, but just just speaking it out loud, because it helps me drown out the negative.
Yeah, makes sense.
It's taken me a long time to get here, but still that negativity is there. So for people, and I love the message that you are sending is because many people who want to do a lot of things. I've met so many people who want to do something and are not able to do it because of, one, that's fear, and they're not positive enough because the negativity eats at them.
Yes.
So thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Any last words for our viewers?
Yeah, last word, this has all been about the power of focusing on what you want to focus on. You can choose. And so I want to reiterate that. You get to choose the experience that you have in life. You don't get to choose the things that happen. We don't get to choose those things. But we do get to choose how we're going to respond. You have a responsibility to make the best of the situation. And what I mean by that is not in a heavy way, but in you have the ability to respond. This is an ability that you have, that you were given. You can get through this, whatever you're going through. And I'm talking to every single one of you, because when I say this, you just thought of something. You just thought of what you're going through. When I said you can get through this, that applies to you, because everyone's going through something. And so just realize you get to choose what story you tell yourself. I heard this recently, this example. Here's the difference between two different people in their lives. You could have the same experience. The experience can be, let's just say you were almost hit by a car. You're about to cross the street and a car zoomed by and almost hit you. What story are you going to tell people? I almost died today, and there was this maniac driving around and he almost killed me, and I'm just this victim and this terrible things happened to me. That's one way. That's a completely that's one reality. Another reality is, I wasn't looking and this car came by and it almost hit me, but somehow I was saved. Somehow I was saved, and maybe I was saved for a reason. It was so close, I didn't even see it, but somehow I missed it. And which one of those is true? Whichever one you decide is true. But it's a very different experience that you live in. And for me, when I say focus on the good, I don't think everything's good all the time. But I say this, when I make a decision to focus on the good, the experience that I have in life is a whole lot better. And if I get to choose to live in a life like that, or to live in a life where I'm the victim and everything's bad happening to me, I'm going to choose this one. Whether it's true or not, I feel a lot better. And you get that choice.
That's a good message. I like the first story better, because you know what? By the time you tell it to three people, it would have become a very large story, right?
Yeah, this maniac, he drove on the curb. He drove on the curb and he came and I jumped out of the way and he was trying to kill me.
Yeah, and by the time you tell three people, it's become a very large, long story,
Uh-huh. And
so
you believe it.
all
The
of a
more
sudden,
you repeat it, the
maniacs.
more you believe it. Yeah.
And there's three maniacs all of a sudden out to get you.
Yeah, they were pinning me, all together. They were chasing me.
Thank you so much for the laugh. And thank you so much for sharing this message. I really appreciate you. I appreciate your time. And for those people that are watching, please share this video, like this video, and visit our YouTube page.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jake. Bye.
Bye.